Welcome back to the People's Pulpit, where we cut through fear, shame, and empire propaganda to ask how we might live freer, braver, and more connected lives. Today we're looking at 1984 not just as a book about surveillance but as a warning about what happens when intimacy itself becomes dangerous, when the most human parts of us are stripped away until nothing is left but loyalty to the system. Because when we talk about the loneliness epidemic for men and the relationship recession for women, we are describing the same wound, human connection under siege. And if we settle for just coping with that wound instead of healing it, we risk becoming Julia. George Orwell's 1984 is about the destruction of trust. Big Brother doesn't just watch you, he rewires you until you stop needing anyone but him. His victory is complete when love feels subversive, when friendship feels risky, when sex is no longer an act of freedom but a mechanical duty to the state. And then there is Julia. She dares to feel when everyone else has gone numb. She risks her life to kiss Winston in the woods, to taste honey in a world that only serves gruel. And we want to celebrate her. But here's the truth, Julia is not a revolutionary. She is living Ayn Rand's virtue of selfishness in party overalls. Her rebellion is about carving out a private corner for herself, not building freedom for anyone else. She leads Winston into secrecy but never into transformation. And Orwell shows us why that kind of rebellion is easy to crush. Private pleasure can be punished. Secret transgression can be rewritten. Big Brother fears solidarity, not scandal. That warning is for us too. Men face record levels of isolation. Women are withdrawing from partnership altogether. We are swiping more, connecting less. Hookups replace intimacy. Ghosting replaces honesty. Empowerment gets flattened into branding but rarely becomes solidarity. And Big Brother doesn't just watch this happen, he weaponizes it. He uses failed attraction cycles and heartbreak to pit men and women against each other. He convinces men that women are untrustworthy and convinces women that men are unsafe, until both stop meeting each other as partners and start seeing each other as risks. The end game is a sexless, suspicious, fragmented population, because nothing terrifies patriarchy more than love that is mutual, chosen, and public. Choosing not to date can feel like self-protection. But we have to name it, permanent disengagement is what the system wants. A disconnected population is an obedient population. Abstaining from connection forever doesn't break the machine, it greases its gears. Choosing relationships, choosing intimacy, choosing sex, even when it is messy and difficult, is a way of taking power back from Big Brother. But that choice only matters if we redefine what sex and relationship mean, if they become spaces of mutual liberation instead of another arena where patriarchy writes the rules. Simone de Beauvoir calls us to move from immanence, living as objects defined by others, into transcendence, where we become subjects creating the world anew. Julia never makes that leap. Her rebellion is still framed by the men she seduces, the party she shocks, the rules she bends. She never uses her freedom to imagine something that could liberate anyone else. Liberation theology sharpens this: freedom is not finished until everyone is free. Liberation is not just sneaking off into the woods, it is tearing down the walls of the city so everyone can breathe. Sex, if it is to be revolutionary, must become a place of re-education, where expectations are healed, where desire is mutually honored, where people are willing to walk away from what is exploitative to make space for what is whole. Then we hear Song of Songs 5 verse 1, eat, friends, drink, and be drunk with love. This is not a whisper in the dark but a public toast. It is love as a feast, intimacy as celebration, connection as something so good it deserves to be witnessed. This is not hookup nihilism or transactional romance. This is a vision of a world where love is not commodified, not policed, but toasted like wine at a table where everyone is welcome. But to live this out we have to be honest about what masquerades as freedom. Hookup culture can feel empowering, but when it centers the male gaze, when it rewards conquest over connection, it just props up the very system we think we're resisting. Easy sex can be rebellion, but unless it heals rather than harms, unless it liberates other women and re-educates men, it ultimately keeps intimacy small and individual. True sexual liberation means using our agency to make sex more than rebellion, to make it a site of mutual dignity, clarity, and growth. It means communicating expectations, naming boundaries, and yes, being willing to break up if those expectations cannot be met. Ending what is harmful is not failure, it is the first step toward building something better. And we must stop romanticizing chemistry as if it is fate. Intensity is not intimacy. Repetition compulsion is not destiny. We must co-author our relationships instead of letting trauma write them for us. Only then does intimacy stop being the place where we are wounded and start being the place where we are healed. This is not about new purity codes or moral policing. It is about radical free will, choosing connection because we want it, not because we are told to. Better love and better sex are not about compliance but creation. They begin when pleasure becomes presence rather than performance. When vulnerability becomes strength, when trust is built rather than broken. Julia shows us courage, but courage is not yet freedom. Ayn Rand would cheer her for choosing herself, but the call is to go further, to choose ourselves and each other. To turn lonely rebellion into collective creation. To take back the body, take back desire, take back the bonds that make us human. Big Brother cannot survive a people who refuse to be lonely. The party cannot endure a generation that refuses to retreat into sexlessness and instead chooses to build a culture where intimacy is mutual, public and liberating. The future belongs to those who celebrate love as a feast, who are willing to leave behind what wounds them and create what heals. Thank you for joining me on the People's Pulpit. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who's ready to stop surviving and start building. Because once we reclaim intimacy as ours, not Big Brothers, not patriarchies, no empire can ever take it away again.